When we think of self-confidence, many of us picture someone who never hesitates, never questions themselves, and always knows the right answer. But real self-confidence is not that flawless mask we sometimes imagine. It's not about being perfect. It's about being willing to show up even when the outcome is uncertain. Confidence doesn't mean the absence of fear or doubt. It means deciding that fear and doubt don't get to make the final call. Self-confidence is not about never doubting, it's about moving forward despite the doubt. Doubt will always be a companion on the journey of growth, whispering questions about whether we are good enough, ready enough, or strong enough. Many people wait for the day when those doubts vanish, believing that only then will they be able to take a leap forward. But the truth is, waiting for a life free of self. Doubt is like waiting for the ocean to be still before learning to swim. It never happens. Confidence is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the decision to act while uncertainty lingers in the background. There is a quiet bravery in moving ahead even when the mind is filled with questions. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a declaration that doubt does not get to dictate the course of our lives. Confidence grows not because fear disappears, but because we learn to coexist with it. Imagine standing on a stage with trembling hands or applying for an opportunity while your heart beats fast with hesitation. It is in those very moments, when doubt is loudest, that courage proves its worth. Confidence begins in those steps we take when every part of us is unsure, yet we move anyway. The mistake so many make is believing that confident people feel fearless. But the most confident individuals are not those who never doubt. They are those who doubt and yet step forward with faith in themselves. They are willing to risk stumbling, to risk imperfection, to risk the unknown. And every time they do, they expand their sense of what they are capable of. Confidence is built like a muscle, through use, through challenge, through repetition. When we begin to trust ourselves enough to act, even with doubt present, we discover that the world doesn't end when things don't go perfectly. Failure, rejection, or even simple mistakes do not strip away our worth. They become the soil from which resilience and strength grow. Each experience teaches us that we can survive uncertainty, that we can rise after a fall, and that we can handle far more than we once believed. Doubt is not the enemy of confidence. It is the training ground. Without it, there would be no need for courage. Confidence blooms when we learn to walk hand in hand with doubt, refusing to let it paralyze us. Every moment we take a leap, we prove to ourselves that fear does not control us. And slowly, step by step, our faith in ourselves grows stronger than the voices of hesitation. Real self-confidence is not a loud proclamation of certainty, but a steady willingness to keep going, even when the outcome is unknown. It's not about silencing doubt, but choosing to act in spite of it. And in doing so, we create a life not limited by hesitation, but expanded by courage. Every step we take toward confidence begins with action. So often, we wait until we feel ready, strong, or fearless before we step into the arena of our lives. But readiness rarely arrives as we expect. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It is the result of it. Every time we raise our hand, speak our truth, take that risk, or even stumble and rise again, we stitch a little more belief into our own fabric. Confidence is built through action, not waiting for perfection. Too often, people postpone their dreams and hold back from opportunities because they are waiting for that perfect moment when everything feels certain and they feel completely prepared. But that moment rarely comes. Perfection is an illusion, and waiting for it only traps us in hesitation. The truth is, confidence does not suddenly arrive like a gift. It is forged through the imperfect steps we take, the risks we embrace, and the lessons we learn along the way. When you take action, even small action, you begin to train yourself to trust your own abilities. You discover through experience that you are capable of handling more than you imagined. Confidence grows because you prove to yourself again and again that you can show up, you can adapt, and you can survive the unknown. Every time you act, you gather evidence that you are stronger than your doubts, and that evidence becomes the foundation of your belief in yourself. Many people think confidence comes first, that you must feel certain before you step forward, but it works in the opposite direction. Action creates confidence. Just like you cannot learn to swim by standing at the edge of the pool, you cannot build confidence by simply waiting to feel ready. You must get into the water, splash, struggle, and learn. Through the doing, fear begins to loosen its grip, and confidence takes root. There is power in embracing imperfection as part of the process. If you demand perfection before you start, you will stay stuck. Confidence comes when you are willing to stumble, to make mistakes, and to rise again. Each mistake is not proof of inadequacy, but proof of courage. It means you are in the arena, moving, trying, and learning, and that learning becomes fuel for growth. Confidence built this way is far more resilient than the shallow kind based on everything going smoothly. It is a confidence that knows it can endure setbacks and still move forward. Action also shifts the voice within. Doubt thrives in silence and hesitation, but when you take action, you interrupt that cycle. You create movement, and movement brings clarity. With every step forward, even if it feels uncertain, your inner dialogue changes from "I can't" to "I am trying," and eventually to "I can." Confidence is not born from sitting still and overthinking. It is born from leaning into the discomfort of trying. The gift of action is that it builds momentum. One small step leads to another, and soon you find yourself further than you ever thought possible. Each action compounds, layering belief upon belief, until confidence becomes part of who you are. You no longer wait for the perfect moment because you realize the perfect moment is the one where you begin. Confidence is not waiting for the storm to pass before moving. It is learning to take steps even as the wind blows. It grows not in flawless execution, but in the courage to act, to risk, and to trust that you can handle what comes. Through action, you build not only confidence, but also the strength to live a life unshaken by the myth of perfection. At its heart, self-confidence is deeply tied to vulnerability. To say "I will try," "I will show up," or "I will speak," even when we don't know if we will succeed, is an act of courage, and courage and vulnerability are inseparable. Without the willingness to be seen, without guarantees of applause or acceptance, we cannot grow the kind of confidence that lasts. Vulnerability and courage are the foundations of authentic confidence. Many people mistake confidence for a polished image, a flawless performance, or an unshakable exterior, but those are only masks that can easily crack under pressure. Real confidence is not built on the absence of weakness or fear. It is rooted in the willingness to be seen as you are, even when the outcome is uncertain. Vulnerability, the courage to show up without guarantees, is what allows confidence to take root in authenticity rather than pretense. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we acknowledge that we do not have all the answers, that we may stumble, and that others may see our imperfections. That can feel terrifying because it strips away the armor of control we often wear to protect ourselves. Yet, it is only in this raw honesty that true confidence is born. Pretending to be perfect may win temporary approval, but it leaves us hollow inside. Confidence built on courage and vulnerability, however, is solid because it does not depend on the illusion of flawlessness. It depends on the strength to be real. Courage and vulnerability are inseparable. To stand before others and speak your truth requires courage, but it also requires a willingness to be vulnerable, to risk judgment or rejection. To pursue a dream, you must have courage, but you must also be vulnerable enough to risk failure. Confidence comes not from guaranteeing success, but from knowing you are strong enough to endure whatever comes. When you live this way, you stop chasing validation and start grounding yourself in your own worth. Many people assume vulnerability is weakness, but in reality, it is the birthplace of resilience. It takes far more strength to admit uncertainty, to take risks, or to reveal your true self than it does to hide behind a mask. Vulnerability is the soil in which courage grows, and together they form the roots of authentic confidence. Without them, confidence is shallow, easily shaken when faced with difficulty. With them, confidence is steady because it is not built on the need to be perfect, but on the bravery to be human. When you choose vulnerability, you give yourself permission to fail, and in doing so, you also give yourself permission to learn and grow. Each time you rise after a stumble, your confidence deepens. Each time you show up despite fear, your courage expands. Slowly, you build a trust in yourself that no external approval can replicate. That trust is the essence of authentic confidence. Authentic confidence does not shout. It does not need to prove itself. It is quiet, steady, and unshaken because it comes from within. It comes from the courage to risk, the vulnerability to be seen, and the strength to keep showing up. This kind of confidence is not a performance. It is a way of being. It whispers, "I am enough as I am, and I am strong enough to face what comes." And in that space of truth, real confidence lives. Comparison is perhaps one of the greatest thieves of confidence. When we measure ourselves against someone else's highlight reel, we diminish the quiet strength of our own story. Authentic confidence is born when we stop chasing someone else's definition of success and begin honoring our own voice, our own path, our own pace. Comparison erodes confidence. Authenticity strengthens it. When we look at others and measure our worth against their achievements, appearances, or paths, we invite doubt to settle in. Comparison whispers that we are behind, that we are lacking, that who we are is not enough. It drains energy and feeds insecurity, making us believe that confidence comes from matching or surpassing someone else's standard. But true confidence can never grow in the shadow of comparison. It is cultivated only when we turn inward, honor our own journey, and embrace the authenticity of who we are. Comparison is a trap because it blinds us to the uniqueness of our lives. Everyone's path is shaped by different circumstances, struggles, and gifts. To compare our chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20 is unfair and disheartening, yet it is something many of us do unconsciously. When we fixate on others, we diminish our own growth and overlook the quiet victories already unfolding within us. Confidence does not emerge from winning a race against others. It emerges from running our own race with integrity and purpose. Authenticity, on the other hand, strengthens confidence because it frees us from the endless cycle of measuring up. To live authentically is to accept both our strengths and imperfections, to express our true voice, and to align our actions with our values. When we show up as ourselves, we no longer need to perform or prove. There is peace in knowing that confidence is not about being the best version of someone else, but about being the truest version of ourselves. The paradox of comparison is that it narrows us, while authenticity expands us. When we compare, we shrink into doubt and envy, losing sight of our own abilities. When we are authentic, we open space for growth, for self-acceptance, and for courage. Confidence rooted in authenticity is unshaken because it does not depend on the fleeting approval or achievements of others. It depends on the steady truth that our worth is not up for debate. Living authentically requires courage. It means daring to embrace our uniqueness in a world that often pressures us to conform. It means saying, "This is my path, this is my pace, this is my story." That act of self-acceptance creates a foundation that comparison cannot shake. Each time we choose authenticity, we strengthen the muscle of confidence because we prove to ourselves that we are enough. Confidence withers when we compare, but it thrives when we honor our truth. We cannot control how others live or what they achieve, but we can control the way we show up in our own lives. Authenticity says, I will not measure myself against someone else's yardstick. I will measure myself against the person I was yesterday. That is where confidence is built, by embracing our growth, our resilience, and our uniqueness. The moment we stop chasing someone else's reflection and start embracing our own, confidence begins to shine. Authenticity is not about being flawless, it is about being real. And when we are real, comparison loses its power and confidence finds its strength. Confidence is not loudness, and it is not arrogance. It doesn't need to prove itself by standing taller than others. True confidence is grounded in humility. It is the calm assurance of knowing our worth without needing to diminish anyone else's. It allows us to celebrate others while still standing firmly in our own light. Confidence grows when we honor our own voice and values, because true strength comes from living in alignment with what matters most to us rather than bending ourselves to fit the expectations of others. When we silence our voice to please, to conform, or to avoid discomfort, we may gain temporary approval, but we lose the steady foundation of self-trust. Every time we choose to honor our own truth, even in small ways, we reinforce the belief that our perspective is valid and our presence matters. Confidence is not built by chasing applause. It is built by listening inward and allowing that inner compass to guide our choices. Living by our values means that even when things don't go as planned, we can stand with dignity because we know we acted with integrity. Our voice may tremble, our steps may feel uncertain, but courage is not about perfection. It is about speaking and living in a way that reflects who we are at the core. When we practice this consistently, we cultivate a deep trust in ourselves, and that trust becomes unshakable confidence. It is not the kind of confidence that comes and goes with external circumstances, but the kind that remains steady because it is rooted in authenticity. By honoring our values, we stop comparing ourselves to others because we realize our worth is not determined by their path, but by our own alignment with what we hold sacred. By using our voice, we reclaim the power that doubt tries to steal, showing ourselves that we are capable of facing discomfort and still standing firm. This practice builds resilience because when criticism comes, when failure arrives, or when challenges appear, we do not collapse under them. We stand, knowing we are anchored in what is true for us. Confidence that comes from honoring our own voice and values is gentle yet powerful. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to dominate. It simply shines from within, reminding us that we belong, that we are enough, and that we are strong enough to navigate whatever comes. And so, to be self-confident is not to be flawless. It is to be willing to rise after we fall, willing to trust that our voice matters, willing to live aligned with our values even when the crowd demands otherwise. Confidence whispers, you belong here. You are enough and you can keep going. True confidence is not arrogance. It is grounded humility with inner strength, because arrogance seeks to elevate the self by diminishing others, while genuine confidence quietly affirms worth without comparison or superiority. Arrogance is loud, defensive, and fragile, built on the shaky foundation of needing constant validation, but authentic confidence is steady, calm, and resilient, rooted in a deep knowing of one's value that does not require external proof. To be truly confident is to carry yourself with dignity while also recognizing the dignity of others. It is to walk into a room without the need to dominate or overshadow, but with the quiet assurance that you belong there just as much as anyone else. This kind of confidence flows from humility, the understanding that you are not above anyone, nor are you beneath them. You are simply enough as you are. Humility does not mean weakness. It is a strength that allows you to learn, to grow, and to admit mistakes without shame. And in that willingness to be open, confidence expands even further. Inner strength forms the backbone of true confidence because it allows you to face challenges, failures, and setbacks without losing faith in your worth. It is not about avoiding fear, but about having the courage to stand firm in the presence of it, knowing that your value is not defined by a single moment or outcome. This blend of humility and strength creates a confidence that invites connection rather than distance, because it does not threaten others, it inspires them. It is a confidence that does not need to be proclaimed, for it is evident in the way you carry yourself, in the steadiness of your choices, and in the respect you extend to those around you. Where arrogance seeks to prove, authentic confidence seeks to serve. Where arrogance is brittle, authentic confidence is unshakable because it is built not on comparison but on truth. Such confidence is not a mask but a reflection of inner alignment, the harmony between who you are and how you live, and it reveals itself not in boastful declarations but in the quiet resilience of someone who knows they can weather storms, rise after falls, and still remain true. To embody this kind of confidence is to embody both strength and softness, to be both grounded and courageous, to know your worth deeply while still remaining open to the worth of others. And in that balance lies the essence of real confidence, humble, resilient, and unbreakable.